we've talked about Trevor Lee's House Bill 88 before, but what happened this week was something else entirely. This is the story of how Utah Republicans can bring bills that are dying back to life. As you may know, Trevor Lee is not having a very good session. He's already had so many bills die, and maybe that's the reason why he has been getting a little bit more desperate. House Bill 88 is an immigration bill that is designed to make life harder for undocumented people in Utah, primarily by cutting off public assistance programs from them entirely. This is a bill he has substituted 7 times. In his earlier versions, House Bill 88 removed immigration status exemptions from programs like immunizations, crisis counseling, domestic violence resources, homeless shelters, food banks, and more. And he was really honest about why he was running this bill, saying, quote, "If we do our job and get rid of these incentives, many will self-support without us having to do it forcibly." And then when he was presenting this bill in committee, he said, "Compassion stops at the door of irresponsibility." And that clarity and that honesty of why he's running this really hateful bill is actually very important in what happens next. When this bill passed out of committee and then came up on the floor, there were 2 amendments that passed, one that said that this does not apply to minors, and another one that exempted domestic violence counseling. And then it looked like we may have had a win. A Republican representative moved to circle the bill, meaning they just kind of put the bill on pause and they can come back to it later, or they don't have to come back to it at all. This is a much more polite way to kill a bill towards the end of session. Luckily, that motion actually passed and it was circled, and we all felt a sigh of relief. We thought it was dead, and it was for about 72 hours. Because House Bill 88 had been circled due to Trevor Lee's inability to legislate effectively, Trevor Lee needed a new vehicle to move this legislation forward. So he made an amendment on the floor to a different bill, an entirely different bill that was non-controversial and pretty procedural. He made an amendment to add the language of his 7th substitute of House Bill 88 into this new bill. This new language that was proposed to go into House Bill 386 included restricting undocumented Utahns from accessing in-state tuition, scholarships, housing loans, professional licensing, and state retirement benefits. There were some really incredible representatives, both Democrats and Republicans, who were ready to speak out. Some of it was religious, some of it was procedural, and some of it was very personal. But it was all really moving. After all of that, Representative Norm Thurston moved to circle this bill again. He said he'd been on the phone with the drafting attorneys, the people that write the actual legislation, and even they couldn't answer all of his questions about what the implications of this would be. He said there's a reasonable chance that this bill will make it easier for undocumented kids to access in-state tuition, and a reasonable chance that it made it harder. But he didn't know, and neither did the attorneys. Trevor Lee obviously was opposed to this move, and then it was complete chaos. They had a call of the House, meaning that any legislator that was not on the floor had to be physically located and brought back to vote. We saw it tied. Initially, it was 35 to 35, and then we watched members switching their votes in real time. 2 original yes votes flipped to be no votes, and the motion passed. Then they had to vote on the substitute, meaning adding in Trevor Lee's bill into this new bill, and the whole process started over again. Initially, we were hopeful. It looked like it wasn't going to be successful. Then they had another call of the House. Then people flipped. Then it passed. And the final count was 39 to 33. In the end, there were 18 Republicans that voted no on this bill. Because we have a supermajority here in Utah, it is not often that we have votes like this that are contentious and really close. It's also not very often that we see more moderate Republicans actively speaking out against their Republican colleagues, especially when the legislation has to do with something that is clearly a priority for leadership, both at the federal and the state level. So in the end, this bill did pass the House and it's going over to the Senate. But I think what's important to remember is that this bill, HB 88, was originally struggling because Trevor Lee was so honest about his intentions of the bill. And for better or for worse, that means a lot of Republicans had to make a decision about if they could endorse this very explicitly anti-immigrant legislation, or if they could follow their own morals or listen to their more moderate districts and not support a bill. There is reason to be hopeful because clearly there are still some Republicans in Utah who don't want this type of legislation to take over our state too. And additionally, we know that the Senate oftentimes does not like to pass bills that they think have been done through bad procedure or through bad legislating. And so there is a chance that we could kill this bill in the Senate. So you should contact your senators as soon as possible and tell them that they need to be voting no or amending to remove the new language from House Bill 386. Just because this is not as bad as it used to be doesn't mean that we should accept that this is how reality is, and we should still try and get this section removed from this bill. Because these tricks that they try and pull towards the end of session only work if no one pays attention.